we begin the recording, we start to get into a telepathic journey. Now, the journey begins before we ever leave our bodies. Let's just make sure we have some mutes on these mics. That's good. And then we'll have better recording quality. For these journeys, there's always a couple, an extraterrestrial, wonderful beings assigned to you that hang out near you to keep any subconscious fear or negative nature turned off for the journey. This is something that they do as a service. It's easy for them. They didn't do this before of people on Earth that I know of, so this is relatively new for anybody on this planet. And it allows people to go on journeys without being a master of their whole subconscious mind or, having it gone. You can look at a review a primary implant, know what's in it, and that's a great beginning because then we have more mastery over the thing we call fear of the present and future. And we have a volitional control over whether we want to indulge in it or not. We actually change. We start to break up old habits. We begin to take command of our own ship again. And that's a good thing. Because normal beings would never, well, first of all, they don't grow up on Earth, so they're not misdirected or brainwashed from birth to think the way people on Earth do, but they don't focus on negative things. Their imagination never goes in that direction because they aren't brought up that way. Now that's just normal to me. In fact, that's just normal to each one of you. I don't have to tell you that. You already know that's normal. Earth isn't that way yet. So we got to do what we can and do our part to help bring about a change. Not just for planet Earth, because that isn't how it works. It's not just for the egos of people on Earth. The change is underway. It involves is being done for the benefit of all life out in the universe, on all the planets, but particularly planets that are suppressed or that have beings on them with no memory and that kind of thing, or they've had things done to them, put on a planet without their consent and all that stuff. There's more of a focus with beings from other worlds. More than 80 races have been coming here around the clock since the end of World War II. I mean, it's a lot of different, more than that. That's just what the extraterrestrial community has finally tracked down, 80. And that all comes from classified whistleblowers, not from their own experience. Very few people experience 80 races from the stars on Earth. But you folks are being introduced to and meeting quite a number. Otherwise, you just wouldn't imagine them or connect with them. What we're doing is rubbing shoulders with beings who do not have the kind of difficulties we have to deal with on Earth. When they work with us, they simply are a vehicle for this pure form of the hue, the omnipresent sound. It moves through them without restrictions or inhibitions or subconscious problems that we tend to end up in the way blocking for one reason or another. And as that energy moves through their clear conscience, it rubs off on us as it passes through us. Gently, carefully, and then we begin to recover who we are. Now that a few of you are here, do any of you wish to go to a particular place along the way? You get an inspiration anywhere? If you are, Inez, just turn on your mic and go ahead and add it to the recording.
Oceana.
Okay, we'll go to Oceana. It's one of my favorite places too. I love the Oceanian people, but I love the Drens. I'm really partial to the Drens. Like Etta and Din. Etta and Din will be with us on the journey. So perhaps we should go play around a little bit on Oceana for a bit with master teachers before we head up into the upper realities. Anybody else in a particular place you would like to go? Okay. As your body's going to the trance state called sleep, it's just pretty natural and just kind of takes place. It's very easy. Doesn't mean you won't hear a sound outside or something in the earth plane. Certain perceptions are left on for safety reasons, so you know what's going on around you. But the body itself and the brain that sees light in the world is turned off for these journeys. Because when the eyes are shut, another inner vision opens up. People call it imagination. They call it many things without understanding it. But it's not that the brain is really picturing anything, as people incorrectly believe. All the medical science on earth and everything they've done to date in psychiatry and psychology still do not understand where imagination comes from. What part of the brain? How does it work? It's all theory. They really don't understand. When we see something or something's described for you telepathically, you're actually seeing it. It's not being made up from your brain cells. The brain cells do not imagine anything. The brain in your head isn't designed to do that. That's a multi-billion circuited system that runs the all complex systems in the body, controlled by you through the pineal gland in the center of the brain. We get in and out of our body most of the time through the pineal gland. You put your body to sleep at night and go up a white tunnel or whatever it looks like to the Atma. You could be behind your head, hovering near the ceiling, or on the other side of the planet, and be aware that your body is sitting there. The Atma isn't limited in the way brains and bodies and personalities are. The hue, the first sound behind creation, has always been. And we are comprised or made of or out of the omnipresent first sound behind creation. The energy that comes from far beyond the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, all the way from source. And so all those upper realities were first manifested by beings and supported and held in place by silent mentors in a pure energy field that had no negative and positive opposites. Because the energy there is one energy there, you really can't say there's space and time there. Because everything that is there that appears solid is made of energy, and everything in it is energy. So it's a convenience for people to relate to each other. In the lower worlds of time and space, where matter and atoms and nuclear material and radioactive material exist, the one energy splits into two currents, positive and negative, like the opposite poles of a battery, in order to create slower fields of energy, time and space, lower dimensions. And it looks good on paper when you look at it as far as the mechanics of how it works. But when beings start playing in positive and negative fields, and the lose sight of the fact that they're splitting what appears to be opposite energies, which is really just the hue, taking the form of a positive terminal and negative terminal to manifest and hold in place things between them. When people get caught into thinking positive and negative as if they're one pole or the other, that's really one energy, they fall into what is called illusion or maya. And it was built so well, most beings that ever went down in the lower worlds got caught there. I mean, caught in wonderful lives and all that, and lots of great bodies and over billions of years, but it wasn't long before they started forgetting even how to return back upward above the void. That took a long time for people to lose many of their higher access to their higher faculties, conscious access, until they became so vulnerable down in the physical, one of the lowest parallel dimensions of the physical plane, where Earth is, and get vulnerable and get caught and killed and misuse of science, stuffed in a body and all that. That part of it, that's being stuffed in a body without your permission, randomly placed somewhere on Earth. It's a difficult challenge for people to get out of that, because when they're growing up on Earth, particularly Earth, they're taught to believe that this was God's will, or that there was a contract they had that put them here. It's convenient, self-ego soothing kind of belief. It's not real, but it's all people have. They have faith and belief. They don't have experience or remembering. They have faith and belief. And they're taught that to feel better about themselves, there was a contract they had, and they said, "Oh God, I want to come to Earth, dumber than a monkey," and that's an insult to monkeys. "I want to come to Earth with no memory of everything I've ever been in the universe, and run a human body on Earth with no memory and get it better, get it right, become perfect." But it's not realistic. No one can become anything that way. We have to go the other way and remember who we are, which has never been the bodies we're running now. So this is like a dream where we are here. It's very real when we're in it, getting in a car, getting in a plane, going here, going there, pushing a body around in matter. It's very real for the body that's in the matter, made of that matter. Sure it is. But in reality, we are not and have never been the bodies we run temporarily in one life or another on this planet, or 1,000 lives here. They come and they go. Bodies are a dime a dozen. They're a blink. They live a short time here on Earth. And then they just grow old and stop working. And people think that's normal. It isn't. The only reason I'm sharing this with you telepathically is to prepare you for the journey, so that you know that your body is going into the trance state called sleep. That is, if you're cooperating of your own free will. Just like you put it to bed every night, it's exactly the same. Out-of-body travel 101 means focusing your attention outside of Earth, beyond the limits of it, into the greater universe. And then we have to have access to what planets and places and doorways and dimensions look like. We have to have some visual thing awakened into us about what the Atma plane looks like. Just at least parts of it when we go there, so that there's something for you to go back to. And this means you go back to it every night when you leave your body, even though you still don't bring back awareness you're doing it. That's just an old bad habit. It's not just this lifetime that created that bad habit. It took many. So things are going on once we cross paths with the hue and we're guided up to these journeys this way. What happens to us is permanent. The change that takes place in us is permanent. It cannot be reversed. We're simply now embarking on a road to be conscious co-creators with the Source, which we were supposed to do many billions of years ago. Coming in the lower worlds and running a body and forgetting who we are is not being a conscious co-creator with Source. Being on a planet thinking we own it when we know we don't, The bodies we have, we know we can't keep. We don't even own them. Can't control anything on earth, lives, how short or long lives are. But people were meant to be custodians and caretakers of the lower worlds of time and space. That was the whole point. That is not what people on earth are doing. Most people are not. Some are. That's good. And more are starting to awaken in certain ways, and that's good. We still need to get to 150 million people for this planet out of 8 billion to transform this world. Some of the beings from the source must be boots on the ground to co-create this change and bring in a greater flow of the Hue expansion ray. It is required. You can't just give a freedom to a planet of unconscious people and give them all these tools and no cures for diseases, and they don't age. The way they are, they would procreate out of their minds, or the planet would be dead in a year. The population would just go through the roof. No one would die. There's real problems with thinking like that. The beings in these other worlds who immortalize their bodies, and believe me, they don't all do that. Natural forms of beings in other worlds live 1,000, 3,000, 5,000 in a regular cycle without telomeres shrinking in their DNA. They live much longer lives than we do. Not only are they smarter at birth and brilliant by the time they're 10, but they live such long lives. The wisdom they carry, which is normal to them, would be like gods and goddesses to us in their presence. And that makes people on earth tend to put them on a pedestal like gods and goddesses and worship them. These beings cannot work with any of us that way at all, period. They can't get anything through to us. There's no way to teach anybody anything that's putting something on a pedestal, including the source itself. It can't work with us. It'll support us like it has always done. But in a sense, we're supporting each other because we're made of the same energy. So in this unique work, we know we do not worship what people call the Supreme Being. That is a trap. And it always has been. No one gets liberated or free doing that. There's no signs of that on this planet that any of that's liberating or freeing anyone. Because we come from that source. We're meant to be able to know it personally and respect it and each other. So we begin to respect all life. That includes animals and plants and sea life and trees and boulders and rocks and mountains and clean air and clean water. And we allow the Hue to come in and charge the oceans, the water systems of the H2O, which can store, or the Hue can hang around large areas of these molecules, large volumes of it. So waters on normal worlds glow. You'll find that out when we go to Oceania. They just do. Normal worlds other than Earth, their oceans are glowing. The nature of the Hue in world systems that have no polar ice caps with glowing oceans is that their oceans are calm. They don't have these weather problems we have on Earth. They have binary and trinary stars they circle around, which affects human DNA in a much different and more profound way than what people on Earth have available to them. Two-stranded DNA, telomere shrinks every time the cells divide. That's aging. There's nothing normal or correct about that. It is what is on Earth for now, but it is not normal. And it is not natural either. Go to any university on this planet and learn medicine and become a doctor or psychology, and they're going to teach you the same stuff based on theory, on things they don't really know for sure. So the world just doesn't know. It keeps the same. It reinforces itself to be part of keeping the status quo. We're not supposed to keep a status quo in creation. We're supposed to co-create with source energy and help things become better for all life. Not just life on Earth. That's arrogant, egotistical, self-serving nonsense. People that don't know who they are think they must be God's privileged people. I guess they couldn't help but do that. the way things are on Earth, but it's not true. Most of the life in what they call God is not on Earth. It's out there in the universe. In parallel dimensions and billions and trillions of planets and higher realities, all the way up through the dimensions, up through the void, which is pure positive hue, a barrier between the lower worlds and the higher realities we come from, we came from, we are from. This doesn't change because people get ignorant and forget everything. It's still there. That hasn't changed. The being has forgotten. And that's about it. It doesn't how many lifetimes they live, how many bodies they've had. The bodies come and go, but the being is not destructible. Cannot be destroyed. No atma has ever been destroyed. Hydrogen bombs set off right under an atma wouldn't even affect it. It's not made of matter. It's not nuclear. It can't be affected by things in time and space in the lower worlds. And that is each of us. That's who we really are. The beauty of this, the enlightenment part of this, is that when we know this, it doesn't matter how much you've remembered about all your lives and all that stuff. You didn't lose any of it. The Atma knows all of it. It's all there. It's not gone. But it takes a lot of those faculties in each layer of the Atma to be able to work with all that information in a spherical energy form in order to comprehend it, deal with it, understand it, because we have a multidimensional capability or characteristics. Atmas are multidimensional capable because Atmas actually are designed, what we are, can move into any dimension on any level and pass from one to the other and visit whatever form we may have there. And if we don't have a form there, we just go there as an Atma. And if we need to speak with someone, they just mock up a human form and dress like the local people and say hi. See, that's more normal. So Earth has a lot of changing to go through. I don't have a clue. Well, I do. But there are things on such levels to change a planet like Earth that must be done by a lot of people, a lot of ships, a lot of beings in the physical universe to bring about such a change on a planet like this. Now, fortunately, they exist. Whether they want to do anything to help us or not, that's their choice. Nobody on Earth can command them, or order them, or manipulate them, or use them. People do that to each other on Earth all the time, but it can't be done to these people. They do not have subconscious negative natures through which they can be manipulated. They see right through it. No problem at all. Easy as cake. Piece of pie, whatever they say. We are now, every one of you and myself, have always been living, singular, individual beings made of the energy of the source itself. Identical, not secondary nature made by some being, and then you're a secondary creation that it runs around and manipulates. That isn't how it works at all. All those apparent abuses and manipulations of people running bodies take place because of subconscious fear. People make wrong decisions about everything all the time because fear is driving their decision making, and that can only bring back negative results. So it's important that we understand we have the ability, not in the future, not later on somewhere, we have the ability to control or master what we choose to visualize. When you visualize something, you're actually not seeing it in a memory cell in your brain somewhere. You're actually seeing it somewhere. Think about this. No one on Earth can write great stories that become feature films or books based on what they learned in one lifetime here. It's just not there. It's not taught here. There's no way they could come up with it. So they're drawing on that from somewhere else as an Atma and unconsciously moving it through the brain and body, and you write it down. This is the actual truth. When we see something in other realities, we're actually seeing it. Fear keeps people from believing. They doubt it. It's not clear. I can't see. They think they see very well in a life on earth when they look out of their eyes at the walking down a street and going in a restaurant. But they don't see well. They're just seeing what's in that one singular molecular time rate of one parallel dimension in one atmosphere and nothing more. That's not right. Human eyes and perceptions are there to transfer information of perceptions for that molecular time rate, that planet, that place, to the Atma. We're supposed to be like spiritual scientists, observing and learning how energy reacts off itself when negative energy is positive, negative, that it does. How people imagine this, how they get into that. We're supposed to be, how to discover it, coming up with new ways of doing things from these experiences. You okay there, Marshall? You okay? Okay. What most people believe, and I'm sharing this with you because it's good to have this under your belt, awake and on the surface of awareness before we go leap into the higher worlds. Because the only thing we can take to the higher worlds is us. The brain, the body, the mind, the emotions, none of that comes with us. That stays with those bodies where those things are generated. All emotion comes from the astral form. The Atma is running an astral body where all emotion moves matter around. So all emotion comes from there. And it's transmitted down unconsciously, unfortunately, for most people. It's transmitted down into the physical form you have on Earth. So a being doesn't just grow up a body from a young child to an adult and have these mature emotions because of the age of the body. That's not where that comes from. Because of the time rate, because of the shortness of lives and all that on Earth and the energy in the atmosphere, it takes a long time for people growing bodies on Earth to have more of the bigger person they were when they were once big before this life come into that life. That's what they call maturity. It doesn't just come from this lifetime. One lifetime wouldn't teach people enough to even walk around and talk as an adult to other people. There's a lot more involved in it than that. So if I make you aware of this, and you go, yeah, I used to know that, it's because you did. It's not like I'm telling you something new you never knew before. So when you imagine yourself being up near above your body, near the ceiling, this is just what we call daydreaming. All we're doing is what you're very masterful at doing already. Get in a car, go to a store, get some things, bring it back to your house. First thing we do is see the store, or we don't get there. We imagine going and getting a video, or going to a movie, or we never get to the theater. It's not the brain that does this. So when we learn how to see beyond Earth and its limitations, when we learn to be cosmic beings, when we learn to be our true nature, when we can go beyond Earth out of body, which is normal and easy. We do it all the time, every one of us, but unfortunately most people on Earth so far are not aware that's what they're doing. They're doing it. They're just not bringing back awareness that they're doing it because they're not taught to do it growing up. It's just not taught anywhere. There are no libraries with books that really talk about this. You know, you can read books that talks about out-of-body travel or astral travel or any of that. And that's fine, they help, but really knowing who we are, that's going to different planes, that's a whole nother ball wax. That's a whole nother deal. Waking that up? Wow. I think it's called the Katsaperi Monastery in Tibet. And in Agam Des are libraries or tablets and recording devices and things that have the real history of Earth and our solar system in them. And you can go into one of these places and really review how Maldek was blown up. And then be there and be part of the experience. Or what happened to Lemriel Atlantis? How many pole flips have there been? How did the galactic alliance first come to this solar system? How did life get imported to Earth by how many races over how many millions of years? 65 million we know, at least in one cycle, after the big dinosaurs were made extinct. That's a lot of missing history, isn't it, of people? On Earth, people are taught tyrant cultures in their history. These are the wonders of the world. Rome, dictators, tyrant kings, Aztec, Mayan, cut your heart out, Egyptian, pharaohs, and all. That's what we learn. But that's just recent history. The real history of what's been on this earth isn't even taught to anyone here. Nobody teaches anything about Lemuria, that existed as a different continent before it sunk in the oceans and new land masses rose up. They don't teach how poles flip. That's classified. Governments know the poles flip. They won't tell people they know it because they don't want to scare people. They want to keep things balanced. They can't control it anyway. There are no more polar flips for this planet. That's done. Classified people that know the poles flip aren't sure that it's really over. But they're beginning to suspect that something happened. The poles went back to where they were in the 1500s, a few years back. So all of this comes from source. It comes from the hue. It comes from the omnipresent living power, the omnipresent sound. The first emanation of any vibration that came out of the source was a sound. On Earth, it's hidden in the word human. Right? Plain, smacking people in the face. They have no idea what doorways that can open. So you're near the ceiling, and you've got two people beside you. A man and a woman, about 36, beautiful, perfectly handsome, perfectly beautiful woman. They're many, many hundreds of years old, in some cases thousands of years old. They have physical bodies on ships or on planets. Not on Earth. And so they do a simple service of getting out of their body and joining us on this journey. In the meantime, they're keeping all of your subconscious fears from the past and other lives and subconscious mind and anything left of implants of any kind are all being kept turned off. So you can get the best benefit. You can bring back this experience to the body and brain and personality you have on Earth that never got any of this on Earth, didn't grow up with any of it like it should have. You can imagine what you'd be like right now if you grew up with parents in society that taught you this stuff when you were first born. Phew. The technology exists off-world from this planet to remove any subconscious blocks or problems. They do not tolerate implantation of any kind in their people. No one's allowed to grow up bent and twisted. They know when there's a problem, something's beginning to be formed subconsciously, and someone's shoving it under the rug that's going to bite them later. They get that gone early on, if anything comes in that way. They want citizens to grow up contributing wonderful new things for the good of all life on hundreds of millions of worlds in just one galaxy out of billions of them in just one parallel dimension. The human brain and body can't comprehend this stuff. It's not designed to do that. The Atma you are is capable of understanding and comprehending the multidimensional nature of the universe because the Atma is built based upon the levels of the multidimensional universe. This is the only place you're going to hear this for now on this planet, coming through this doorway, because it is not revealed anywhere else. That isn't what I wanted. It's not what I wish. But they have to do something somewhere to begin to make an inroad of a higher energy into the atmosphere of this planet. It has to come through Atmas, because Atmas are the living beings from Source. They are the channels for this energy. Now, if Atmas are closed down as they are on Earth, they don't allow this energy to come through and charge the oceans. All this would be over. This would be done. We wouldn't be having this conversation. To get people to leap with childlike wonder beyond mindless entertainment is a great challenge, because people on Earth are very mindlessly entertained. I was not innocent of that, but I'm quite consciously aware that when I'm being mindlessly entertained, it should not be detracting from my conscious awareness of the hue, my awareness of the upper realities where I dwell, or the other worlds I serve in the lower dimensions with many, many others. And none of you should ever forget that you have very wonderful beings now, fully conscious. They don't have implants, no subconscious minds. They're working in the direction to one day free people, like people on Earth, from even having a subconscious mind at all. And that goes way beyond just getting implants gone. That has to do with remembering everything you've ever forgotten in hundreds of billions of years on all the levels. Because the Atma which you are is capable of understanding this stuff. That's why you all know now what you know. It's not your brain and body that grew a higher IQ. It's you. And the body benefits, at least to some degree. It's so simple. We can do all the techniques we can find to age reverse a body. Grow hair back brown if it's white, or black if it was white. It doesn't really change the basic gravity, or the fact that there's not much of a charge of the hue in the water systems of the Earth. The technology to reverse age, immortalize bodies, and fix DNA problems, that's simple, ancient stuff for people not from Earth. And so people that are deliberately kept ignorant of life beyond Earth, as they have been, particularly since World War II came to an end. Quite sad in a way, because they have no idea of the beings that are coming here, even meeting with certain classified people under treaty. No, I can't answer a phone right now. Let me just turn that off. Thank you very much. There we go. Zornata, I think. So we're on this journey already. Make no mistake about it. We've already left. We're in space around Lemriel. We just shift our focus from, we're hovering near the ceiling, the slow way, to being in space around Lemriel. The Atma has this ability to move through the omnipresent energy that it's made of, instantly anywhere. People slow these journeys down to enjoy the ride, but they don't have to. So I endeavor to get you guys bouncing from one place to another, between Earth and being in space, or being near the ceiling and then being in space, or being on Oceania, or being back in space around Lemriel. Flexibility. If you can't imagine being instantly somewhere, you won't go there instantly. If you can only imagine travel on a spaceship, it's going to take you a long time to get across the galaxy with a body. The most advanced spacecraft have to take bodies. If they want to get a body that's working to another world, or another parallel dimension to another world, within the physical universe, they have to take craft to get that body protected from oxygen and gravity and the radiation from suns and stars, so it doesn't get destroyed. common sense. But most of those beings also know how to get from point A to point B out of their body. And they'll go where they're going first before they take the ship with their body there. Makes sense, doesn't it? Practical. So when you see Torellian, the reason he's showing you an 18-foot tall body is because he once had one. One of the shorter ones, actually. The Sayrays, human, were 18 to 25 feet tall. He's simply showing an energy form like you're showing him. Each of you are showing each other a perfectly beautiful or handsome man or woman, about 36, nicely dressed, however you want to visualize it. Standing below the Atma you are. It's coming from the Atma, from the white core. It's like a holographic projection. It's simply the way we show each other to each other, because that body form, that prototype, existed and was able to be projected from you before you left the upper realities to come into the lower worlds. That's what Satnam does. He's the spherical being. He's not the body he shows us. And that's not even a physical body anyway. The being standing beside each one of you in a circle around Torellian. I'm generally a little bit 2/3 the way out in the orbit around Torellian above Earth. There's Earth with its polar ice caps, and the moon, meteor craters, no atmosphere, and the sun and the stars. Everything around us is a white golden light humming. It has a humming sound, almost a rumbling sound, but not quite, no lightning. And it's a vibration the hue makes as a sound when we're in space. At dinner, hovering above him, light seas a little further up. Yon tall as a master, 3.5 million years, or has still a body 3.5 million years old, on a planet, teaches in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. Master Opelum's about just directly opposite Earth, to my right. Ramu's directly opposite of Opelum, nearer to the Earth, with his staff. The couple standing beside you are two spherical beings hovering above you, and you're hovering between them. All they're doing is keeping any fears you've picked up in the lower dimensions of time and space turned off. Turned off nicely with your protected sleeping body back on Earth. Just turned off. They're still there. Be there when you come back. It is the sound that's humming around us that we travel on. The light we see that lights up the universes, in a way, the white golden light that's that black area in space you see in a photograph, it's luminous. So the entire energy of the universe is lit up. Stars aren't as bright, really, as the omnipresent hue. They fire their nuclear explosions off to create warmth and heat, highly radioactive, by the way, to bodies, from the hue that generates itself in an electromagnetic field around the sun. Just like there's one around the Earth, just like there's one around each of us as spherical beings, and just like there's one around your physical body sleeping in the trance state back on Earth. This has not changed. This isn't different. Up above Satnama, you can see hovering way up in space, standing there, just like a physical body standing in space. Looks like he's breathing, but he doesn't breathe oxygen. It's not even a physical body. With his two gold bracelets on his upper arms and his white tunic dress from his waist to his ankles, bare-chested, strongly built, ripped really, what you call ripped or, contoured, about 36-ish, bronze skin, gold eyes, kind of bronze skin, which isn't like someone from India, but he looks kind of like somebody from India. He's not from India. People in India aren't from India either. They were just brought to that continent from other worlds. They don't remember any of this. There's a vortex up above Satnam. It's hourglass shaped, spinning clockwise. It's bright golden white light, brighter than the light of the hue in the atmosphere, in the space around us. And there's a kind of a blue-green luminous liquid light flowing around the outside of it. It matches the 2 layers of color in the Atma you have, that you are. And so it is a way to create a doorway made of the pure hue, which isn't limited to the different dimensions in time and space and molecules of each plane. And it can bypass them. So the energy that's coming down through Satnam and through Turelian's, through the top of this big, beautiful Atma, Turelian is down through his form, in his white gown, his 2 thumbs up, closed fists, there's a brighter golden light around his fists. It's simply creating a kind of and this is fairly new the way he's doing it. It's creating a kind of a transparent hull, like the hull of a spaceship, surrounding all of us. There are over 24 other master teachers, men and women, standing in a circle just inside our circle around Turelian. And they're facing each of you. Just kind, just standing there. Beautiful Atmas, brighter than us. Still Atmas though, same thing. Except they have all their faculties turned on. So the energy coming through Turelian and through them, through us, and from us back through to them. That's how they rub off direct experience upon us. That's how we pick up, remembering how to be who we are, how to do what they do. Turelian's simply setting an example of our potential. When he wants to show a body that appears physical, you go up and touch it. He draws from the omnipresent hue, which he knows how to do, fills this 12-stranded DNA pattern he stored from bodies they once had over 1 billion years ago, and boom, there it is. Carries out a mission, dematerializes it and stores it in one of the teardrops near the white core of his being, goes about his business. He doesn't have to push it around, feed it, and go to the bathroom. More advanced human bodies don't go to the bathroom. They have organs, they have things inside. The genetics hasn't been messed with that transfer food into light and then dispense it and create amino acids to build proteins and other things for a human body. We're not living in highly evolved human forms with 2-stranded DNA. But we once did. Every one of you lived in many. More highly evolved and far more intelligent than you are on this earth. It's you. When you see Turelian point out between the earth and the moon, this sphere of light around us, which is transparent, just blurs out into space. We find ourselves high above the Milky Way galaxy, arcing in like a teardrop of light, heading down towards the other side of the galaxy on the opposite side, away from Earth. And we come down into a nebula and we pass through it. And we've gone past the Pleiades, which is only 500 light years away from Earth. We've gone way into the other end of things. But you're looking at a brighter Milky Way right now than the one you would see in a spaceship. Because we have gone up into the 3rd higher parallel dimension, where there's a Milky Way galaxy, where there is planets and there are people. It's not astral, still physical. Higher molecular time rate, like layers. And we're coming down and hovering over a very large planet. 3 moons the size of Earth, no polar ice caps orbiting it. 3 suns, trinary sun system. This water is beautiful. Beautiful blue, slightly green water. It's glowing. There's just a couple of little islands near the equator. Otherwise, it's totally water. On the islands from space, hovering up with Turelian above this planet Oceania, You can see a Masterful in a circle of beings inside this oval circle Turellian's creating, pointing to it. You know he comes from that planet. He's standing there showing you a form that appears like his physical body that's on that planet right now. He's just showing you. The body he's showing looks just identical to it, same age, about 40-ish, 38. Long black hair to his shoulders, emerald green eyes, slightly pointed ears, little webs between his fingers. And so when you look down on the planet, you can see there are some domes, some clear domes covering pyramids in jungle clearings symmetrically placed on these islands. And now we're hovering above a golden, luminous, sandy beach. On one of the islands, the bigger one's near the equator. And there's a dome in behind the forest, curving up above the top of the jungle trees. You can see the tips, quartz tips of 3 pyramids with golden sides, 4-sided, off to the left third of that city. We know what's in it because the Oceanian cities are symmetrical. They're pretty much the same on any world they create. They don't have to build them, they grow them. It's the first time I'm telling you folks this. They have the technology to form this entire structure and everything in it on a molecular level. I mean, that's building. And there's a tube coming out of the jungle. It's round. It's clear. And there's a transport that blurs to a stop right in the tube before the tube goes down into the ocean. And it's 20 feet long. It's double term. It looks like a quartz crystal, hollowed out with a clear canopy. And there are Oceanian men and women sitting opposite each other in 2 sets of rows inside. Blue skin, black hair, green eyes. And they just see us, nod, and this thing blurs down the tube. And it's going to the bottom of the Oceanian Ocean. The ocean here is calm. There are no polar ice caps. The ocean glows a foot above these calm ocean sea surface. They built many of their cities underwater, but they also built them on land because they can breathe underwater or on land. They have more than 2-stranded DNA, 4. A Turellian, with Opelum standing by him in the inner circle, is simply speaking to Turellian. Next thing you know, we're like a little oval, golden, transparent hull of a spaceship around beings traveling together down into the ocean, following the line of this transport tube that goes down what would be the side of a mountain because that island is the top of a mountain. So we're going down several miles, and as we approach the bottom of the sea floor, you can see whales and dolphins and things like that moving around here that are a little bit more advanced looking than those on Earth. But they look very similar. So you know all dolphins and whales did not originate on planet Earth. They didn't evolve there. They were brought there. And they have changed as they bred. If they breed and go through thousands of years, millions of years, they change a little bit, but the basic form is still the same. So you see this dome, this tube go into the base of a dome, big dome covering a city with 3 golden pyramids, 4-sided, quartz cap, a blue-green lake in the middle, half semi-spheric mountain range in the background, little waterfalls, a blue-green luminous water coming out of these tunnels, filling that lake, and little ivory dome dwellings all through the countryside, and little white stone paths leading everywhere like snakes. And they all head beyond the lake to that pyramidal section, that section of the dome. Down between the 3 domes is a long ivory-colored, low oval-type building. Those are scientific laboratories. Science and these races don't just play with physical matter. They play with how to work the hue, which isn't physical matter, with physical matter. That's why they're so advanced. They know how to work the two together. So you pick up on this as you're looking at the city. You just know it. When you look to the left, you can see a volcanic chute running around the left side of this dome, way out into the sea. It comes all the way up the side of this mountain. And inside, it used to have lava hundreds of millions of years ago. It was emptied onto the surface to create the islands, the few that are there. And the inside of it is hollowed out. And we find ourselves going to a little spherical, convex, outward curved dome observation window. And Et and Din are hovering inside it, waving their fingers at us. That's their bodies. And then you look up in this circle of beings around Turelian, and they're hovering there with an atma above them, with their tails glowing. The bodies are the same. The ones that are with us are out of body. The ones that are where their bodies are in this Dren city, called On, Dren city of On. So we find ourselves as a group of beings, kind of shrunk down, and we're hovering in their living room. And they're showing us the little curved dome bubbles that are windows that look out into their city, inside this hollowed out interior. And we find ourselves outside in this stone floor, looking up at Et and Din waving down to us. And there's a little tunnel, like a curved tunnel with an ivory stone floor that slopes upward, that goes up into it. And all around the outside of this surrounding back of this cavern are these Dren dwellings. And there's a rock waterfall, like a river, pouring down 3 tiers and coming into a blue oval lake. There are many Drens hovering here. You are in the Dren city of On, and you're visiting Etta and Din's home on planet Oceania. The Oceanians dwell in the cities. When they first came to this planet and colonized it, they found these Drens living in these self-contained, oxygen-filled ecosystems with glowing gravel and algae in the walls. It's like daylight in there, like the sunlight. The plants take care of carbon dioxide, produce oxygen. It's a perfectly balanced ecosystem. When the Oceanians first met them, they had a guttural language. They had evolved with the ability in this underground volcanic chambers. They're just filled with millions of year-old crystals of every imaginable kind. So they're silica-based, meaning the DNA they evolved from was like quartz or sand. It's silica, not carbon-based. They evolved the ability to defy gravity and fly and levitate and fly through the air on a planet in its atmosphere. When the Oceanians met them, they became a symbiotic relationship. And the Oceanian scientists evolved them further so they had photographic memories and vocal cords, and they did their job, helping the younger species evolve to a genetic form that Atmos could run just as well as a human or fly a spaceship. That was the job of the Say-Rays long ago. Before the Oceanians, long ago. So we take a quick visit of planet Oceania, and we find ourselves in space above this beautiful world, in a sphere of beings circling Turelian, transparent field of energy around us, like a spaceship's hull. And up above is still standing Satnam. The vortex is still above him. He can move it from Earth to Oceania anywhere else. It's no problem for them. And so he disappears up this shaft of light. And this whole group of us shoot up after him, right up this channel. We can hear the sound of a high note of a beautiful melody playing. It's drawing us upward, pulling on your heartstrings. And you just go. And as we move up through this huge hourglass vortex that bypasses the lower planes of time and space, We can see levels upon levels upon levels of galaxies and realities getting brighter as we go upward, right through the wall of this water. So we can see how it's structured. You have an astral, causal, mental, and etheric body there you can see from here. Just let yourself see it on an island, on a planet, on a balcony, in all these planes, higher bodies, looking at you and looking up at each other. They're aware of each other. And you are the Atma running them, with all of us going up with Satnam into the upper realities. And then we're on the other side of this vortex. And we've come out the top of it. You look down, you can see right down through it. And you can see us still circling in a group of beings around Turelian, near and above the planet Oceania, in the third higher parallel dimension of the physical galaxy we call the Milky Way. And everything around us is a pale blue light, but much brighter than anything below us. I call it pale blue to describe the texture, the softness of it. It's humming. It's humming all around us. I can't even describe it as a flute, almost like the ping of a glass chime, ringing and humming. We are in a pure field of hue. It is quite vast. Nobody can really say how vast, what it takes in energy to cross the void, but this is the void. And it is a barrier between the lower worlds of time and space, where we just came from, and going into the upper realities, where we go to create change. If we want to change anything, we have to do it up there. It won't change down on Earth. People aren't capable, or nor do they have the power collectively or the consciousness anymore to change things really on their own world. Push matter around, build buildings, tear them down, blow them up, pollute this, pollute that, but they can't change anything. So we have to go where we can help change. Up in the void, you can see we're approaching as we fly further upward. Satnam becomes visible again. We're catching up to him. He's just simply traveling in a way that he doesn't have to travel. He doesn't have to move through the void this way. He's just there or here. It's a little more fun to travel, like in a ship or across an energy field from one point to another. And that's fine. There are two forms of travel as an Atma. Out-of-body travel as an Atma across time and space, in ships or faster than ships, and direct projection. Direct projection is the ability to be, say, in Oceania above the planet. Now we're hanging out in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy looking down on 6 snow-covered mountain peaks. But we're not going there that fast. Turelian is stopped above the jungle trees that line their back behind a beautiful, luminous, diamond-like sandy beach. So this is the top edge of the void, which is below the bottom of the Atma plane where Satnam dwells. The trees are transparent. Fruit trees, tropical trees, everything you can think of. Energy moving up and down the trunks. Everything is luminous here. We are. The void is. There are no suns or stars or planets or moons here or galaxies. They're not necessary. This landmass is bigger than the universe below. It's floating in its own energy. It has this sandy beach around it that goes as far as you can see and then disappears in the distance. You know it's circling around something round floating something. And Satnam is moving quickly over the trees, and we're following him until we see a fountain below us. We know what that fountain is, 15 feet in diameter, like a white alabaster scalloped edge fountain, like a seashell. Statue of Satnam, and he's standing right beside it. Then he points off into the distance, and in the distance you see a diagonal snow-covered bluestone mountain range running from the west to the southeast. And up against it, along the base, is crystalline buildings, luminous, big blue lapis lazuli stone pillars holding up a triangular top. And there's a blue stone throne chair sitting in the middle of it, glowing. It's transparent. The gold quartz floor is a foot thick that goes up to the steps leading to this. Nobody sits in that throne chair. Nobody comes here and prays to a god. If you wanted to know, probably Satnam's the closest thing to a supreme being or god you'll ever find, because he's the first personification of form that we can recognize as human-like. But he's really not that form either. And so we go right over the countryside, past this first fountain, right past the throne chair, and out a big triangular opening to a much bigger fountain that's in the courtyard behind it, between the base of the mountains and this palatial estate thing. Everything in that palatial estate has a function. There's a long hallway just behind the throne chair you can look down it, with this luminous floor. And there's a big screen down the left side looking towards the smaller fountain. And when it's turned on, there's a white leather-like chair down at the end of this long hallway under a dome ceiling with a white golden light coming down into it. That's where one of these white chairs are. And when we stand in front of this screen, which we're all doing, you can see through the screen. And when Satnam turns it on, we can see all the lower worlds of time and space and planes. And he tests things here. He puts it through that energy field, and whatever is created up here is tested in the lower worlds of time and space. And it reverberates right back to him. And it tells him if whatever it is true, necessary, and kind. This has to do with the Hue expansion ray, which came into existence above the void. And so he tests things that we might make in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy, and that's located where we're going. So we're going to go up this fountain, which looks like a Christmas tree of blue-green light with gold energy around it, flowing upward to a point, flowing downward. It's not spraying water out of a fountain up like in the falling. It's an energy field. This fountain's much larger. It's got a blue stone. It's white with a blue tinge to it. And there's a beam of white golden light, transparent, pastel, coming down into it from further upward. So as a group of beings, we're sailing right up above into that tree and up that shaft of light. We've already got permission from Satnam to go further. When we come out the other end of that, you can look down through the opening and see the tree way down there, this fountain-like tree thing. And you can see this huge landmass as far as you can see. There are whole levels of oceans connected together with different colored sandy beaches, different colored water that blend into each other, that surround this landmass in a circle. There are lands and orchards and gardens and fields and people and animals and things and birds, and everybody here is an Atma running these different forms and changing, swapping them, so they can learn how to respect all life in the multidimensional creation and take it back to the lower worlds with them. There isn't any other way to wake this up. So you get a glimpse of how many places there are to explore in the Atma plane. The first heaven, you might say, that exists above the void. There are no planets or moons or suns or stars here. Everything produces its own light. It's really, everything you see that looks solid is a projection of a fine, pure hue that takes a form. And silent mentors, you know about those guys. Their job is to, when we build something, is to hold it in place. Keep it running. These are the guardians of the different dimensional portals between dimensions that exist in the natural multidimensional creation, to connect one higher plane to a lower plane and have these little, like vortexes, like little tornadoes that allow the hue to come from a higher frequency to a little bit lower frequency and then feed out through the suns to support the matter in that time rate. Time rates only exist in the lower worlds of time and space. Up here, they don't exist at all. So the sound is now, you're looking down through that, and that vortex vanishes, and all you see around us now is a brilliant cobalt blue light, just breathtakingly bright. You squint. If you had eyes, it's like the atom itself squints and then starts to adjust to it. And in the distance, you can see a massive floating landmass hovering in the center of this unlimited blue, cobalt blue light. And behind the blue light is a slight golden tinge. You can see the hue powering it. In the middle of this landmass, way in the center of it, are 6 snow-covered mountain peaks, also covering snow over blue stone. And you can see a blue glass-like tower coming up in between these 6 mountain peaks to a minaret point. About 2/3 of the way up this tower is a oval administration area with another fountain in it. No statue of Satnam. There's a blue, golden, white light coming down into it from higher up. Now that is built between the top of Satnam's realm, the Atma plane, and the bottom of the 6th Purusha realm. There are many above this that goes to Source itself. When you look out over this big landmass floating here, it has a white diamond-like beach surrounding it. And there's a blue-green wave moving gracefully, crashing on the beach constantly, circling it. It kind of holds it in place. Silent mentors run these kinds of energy fields. In the distance, you can see beyond what would be the shoreline of this white diamond-like beach, much brighter than Satnam's realm, below here. There are 12 domes on small islands circling the outside of the U Expansionary Academy. There are 3 pyramids in each one. They are devices. There's a couple, a silent mentor, hovering above the top of each dome. Beautifully single-colored gown on. One's blue, one's green, one's yellow, one red, that kind of thing. There's a couple hovering above each one of them. Long hair to their shoulders, different skin colors, not just Caucasian or black or this or that, all these different colors. Smooth texture, hair to their shoulders. No facial features at all. Just a white, bright light where face would be. And hovering above them is the true being. 4 times bigger than us, twice as many teardrops. These are silent mentors. It is in this place, in the Hue Expansionary Academy, where we can rub shoulders with such beings. It was set up that way. It is supported by them. And the master teachers who work here. We all do this together. That tower that we came from, that's down between the mountains, coming out of a white island, circular island, surrounded by a blue-green lake, is what's called the Hue Expansion Ray Administration Tower. And it is a channel from Source into the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. It comes through this source, which goes down and feeds a shaft of light inside the hollowed-out interior of this huge landmass. And inside the interior are 12 white chairs facing towards the wall of an oval chamber. And a white golden beam of light coming down into what looks like a little star in a crystal sphere hovering above a solid marble white floor. And against the wall are these 12 trees that look like giant weeping willow trees with broad spoon-shaped leaves glowing. A silent mentor, a man and woman alternating, is standing above each of them, 12, alternating. So this is one place where we can rub shoulders with them. And we do that by simply being in a circle of beings. Turellian's in the beam. We're in a circle of beings around it. And you find yourself sitting in one of those white chairs. There's 12, so there's only a few of us. Easy. Every other chair we fill. The part of you that looks perfectly human, flawlessly beautiful, sits in it. The Atma you are is hovering above it. Now you watch what happens, because the silent mentors begin to move an energy of the hue from higher up, through their way they think and see things, through us, and into Turellian and up that shaft of light. And it moves both ways, and it never stops moving. So we get to experience being in between master teachers and silent mentors here, safely. There are 4 other locations where these guys are located. 4 quadrants of this huge landmass. In the northwestern quadrant, down the central roadway, down the third of that little quarter piece of a pie, if you want to look at it that way. 2/3 of the way down that central roadway towards the beach is a clearing to the right. In the northeastern quadrant, down the same roadway, is a clearing to the right. In the southeastern quadrant is another one. In the southwestern quadrant, another one. Each one has 12 trees of a different variety. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the northwestern quadrant, we can hover above it and see that there are these weeping willow type trees glowing. A crystal sphere with a blue star in it, a shaft of white golden light coming down into it, hovering over a white marble floor. And these 12 silent mentors hovering above the trees. With the Atma, they are much bigger than us. And you can find yourself in a circle of beings just hovering there between Turellian and the shaft of light as a focal point to keep us focused. And then we get to experience these 12 silent mentors. The next place we go is out to the northern dome, offshore, out in the blue cobalt light, on a little island, circular island. And we find ourselves inside it. There's a fountain in the center of it. The 3 pyramids are off to the left in the back third. It's a botanical paradise. There's a fountain that has one of these Christmas tree-like shaped blue, green, gold lights coming up and down it. And there's a shaft of white golden light coming down into it from higher up. And so we're going to pass into that shaft of light as a group of beings around Turellian. We're in this northern dome. There's 12 that surround the outside. There's a male and female silent mentor going up this shaft of light with us, leading the way. And as we sail upward, the next place we find ourselves in is what we call Agam Purushas, or Agam Lok, or plane. And we're in a field of energy all around us. It's a fiery red and yellow and orange and green and blue and purple, moving everywhere. And there's this big silver-like tree right in the middle of it. Big, giant roots disappearing down into this light. The needles and branches of the tree are just massive. And each single needle represents a planet or a place somewhere in creation. So it's referred to as the tree of life. And obviously it's a massive series of doorways that directly connect each point in creation. You move right through one of those needles and you find yourself at that place. And you can travel from that place back here if you have permission from Agam Purusha to be in, because this energy moving around us, it's like gargoyles coming out of walls in strange shapes and flowing, but it's not scaring us. This massive being approaches us, big, huge, spherical, multi-dimensional. More colors than you can imagine. I can't even count the levels of teardrops in this guy. And he approaches us. And you hear him speak with you, and welcome you here. It's best to be friends with this guy. That's how I met him. And he's pointing to the tree. If he had a hand, you just know he's telling you to go inside the trunk of that tree. We pass right through the branches. There's two silent mentors leading the way. And we shoot up the trunk of the inside of this tree. And we come out the other end. And you look down this doorway. You can see the tree. And Agam Purusha hovering there. And that fiery energy. Because he regulates the raw power of eternity. And it's like a transmitter. Like a transformer. Sends butts of it and pieces of it here and there and down the lower worlds. Regulating it. So that it can support realms that vibrate at a lower frequency than here. And then that vanishes, and now we're left in this other reality. We have stepped into the realm above Agam Purushas, and that is where we call the ocean of sound and light, prime creator or source. In the distance, you can see an even brighter, more spectacular cobalt blue field of energy. The gold-white light is mixed with it. You can't mistake it. The blue light, you might say, is comprehension, awareness, understanding. Otherwise, it's just the white golden light of eternity, a living power. And in the distance, you can see a single silver golden galaxy, mostly silver, a little golden glow around it, of course. And the arms of a galaxy. And then you realize that this massive thing, whatever it is, has a sound coming from it that's just drawing us forward. It's like a million orchestras, beautiful wind chimes, glass bells, and you can't even describe it. Because the beings here sing it, manifest it, maintain it. Through a first sound. They sung it into existence. And we're moving through these single beings you thought were stars. They're not. They're massive atmas. And we're moving right between them. Lots of space. And we come to the center, and there's a hollowed out inside of this galaxy, and there's an island, a white island. Hovering above it is this gigantic atma. Millions of layers, more colors than you can even imagine, just radiant, it has a white core. And so, as a group of beings, all of us together around Turelian are like a little drop. And we're moving between the individual teardrop shapes of these, I wouldn't even call them faculties. They're nexus points where all atmas and all creation connect telepathically at this point. And it creates a type of presence. It's the combined intelligence of all that is that makes up source. Everywhere that exists, whether they're conscious of it or not. And we move right inside the white core of this being. And then you look at yourself and you realize there's no human form here that looks perfect. There's just the spherical atma. And here you know the difference between each of us as individuals. And there are many other beings in here. And they have this white core, and it's identical to the white core of the inside of the Prime Creator. And it speaks to us. It has a deep baritone voice and a beautiful angelic feminine voice at the same time. And it welcomes you home. And we find ourselves walking in physical forms toward the end of the white roadway that ends on the western beach. Behind us is the 6 snow-covered mountain peaks and the U Administration Tower. And we're going out towards a clearing. The last turn to the right before you hit the beach is a clearing. There's an Olympic-sized swimming pool with blue-green luminous water in it and a redwood-like fence around it. And we're going up these steps, and we're walking up to these circular doors made of a blue glass that part. It's a huge rectangular building. There are curved, convexly shaped windows. They're actually doorways to other places in creation, around the sides and along the top. couple comes out and stands there. And they have a son who's fairly mature, completely a mature adult as well, but he's half their height. And these are a race of beings that are kindred spirits to the Xentronomus, the 10-foot tall beings, you know, on the other side of the Milky Way, in our parallel dimension way back down there. They have 3.5-year-old, million-year-old bodies immortalized. They split off a long time ago. They come from a galaxy 5 galaxies away from the Milky Way, and they teach in the Hue Expansion Ray Academy. They are known as Das Ventalus. Xentronomus, Das Ventalus. They're kind of like a mated couple. The son is named, they're from the Das Ventalus race. They're very similar to the way the Xentronomus look. Xentronomus, the full-grown adults, are approximately 10 feet tall. Don Trontil, the husband, has radiant green eyes. His wife, Womalam, has radiant ruby eyes, and their son, Tiantassel, has radiant violet eyes, like the Xentronomus. The son appears to be a mature adult about half their height, because they grow to full height over thousands of years. They're custodians and caretakers, like Lycia's the pyramid that's down the western road with the first turn to the right from the mountains. And we are invited to go inside that opening. And when you come inside it, now you're this Atma hovering above this physical form that looks flawless. Tyrellian's in there. There's a huge, huge field inside there, like a soccer stadium. And there's a golden white sphere of light hovering, transparent, up near the top of the roof. You can see these outward curved oval view portals that go to planets, and you can see different places up in the ceiling. So you can go through those and come back to them. But what we're doing is moving up collectively as a group, up inside that giant golden energy sphere. It has a little cobalt blue star in the middle of it. It's a grounding point. And there's light coming from it from the source itself, where we came from. It goes up to the silent mentor's realm. It goes up to the U expansion ray plane, which is even higher. And so this is a point of creativity, and we find ourselves hovering inside this beautiful golden sphere, and something starts to take shape. You can see the planet Earth, and you see the planet Earth as it is, with polar ice caps, and a barren dead moon that does not function properly, does not turn on its axis. The oceans don't glow. So together, you now see that Earth change to a world that has no polar ice caps. And the oceans are glowing, and the moon has an atmosphere, and domed cities with pyramids on it. There are no more buildings on Earth, no central cities. You can see every 20 acres over much of the land, individual dwellings. And you see the moon is alive now, turning on its axis, circling orbiting the Earth. So we co-create our part in helping to bring change. There's more to it than just this one visualization, one thing we're doing. This is also about making change in the entire Milky Way galaxy, and for all the Galactic Alliance world systems and all the Xentronomus world systems. And the purpose for it is to bring about replacing the old field of experiment of good and evil in the lower worlds with something that actually works. And that's the Hue Expansion Ray. It's a consciousness that was created in this place, tested by Satnam, came back approved, and now it's being sent forward for the first time in several 100 billion years since the lower worlds were built. The lower worlds weren't built just once. There have been several times where they've been built, we've gone through this journey, and then they were all wiped out, all the way up to the void. Then rebuilt, and so we were sent back into it. And guess what? After billions of years, everybody got trapped again. So destroying it doesn't work. I have to change what's already a beautiful creation. All the levels are fine. There's nothing wrong with planets or dimensions or doorways. It's the people that don't remember why they exist. So the process begins here, where we eventually neutralize or end the whole thing called subconscious. It has to start somewhere. You find yourself back on Earth, hovering up above where you live. Just like that. The sound from the hue above the void is being brought down with you through the roof of where you live, passing down through the body that's in the trance state, moving through it freely, going out into Earth's atmosphere, connecting to 3 pyramids that are on the planet now that are not made of matter. And they're going out to a bigger pyramid stationed between 2 stable asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of a planet that once was a planet and blown apart, which is how that asteroid field got there. And then it goes to the center of the galaxy and up that white golden shaft we call the axis of the Milky Way galaxy. So it moves through us for our benefit, but it continues on through us for the benefit of others. This is our nature. We have to be able to bring this nature back with us to Earth to enlighten a body and personality that we never had any of this taught to it growing up. You're bringing your higher nature, which is much higher nature than astral, causal, mental, and etheric, for instance. And it's moving down through those planes, through the bodies who are now aware of each other. Because Satnam and Turlian are standing by each of them simultaneously. You know, like, we'll kick your butts if you don't get it together kind of thing. Which encourages them to look up and pay attention. Now stop being so selfish and self-centered. Because your higher so-called selves should be helping each other and helping you on Earth. And for most people, they are not. So this is how we begin to change things. When you're ready, open your eyes. And if you wish, certainly turn on your mics, and I'll ask you first. This is a fairly long recording, about an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah, a little less than that because we didn't start right on time. So not too long. But what I'm asking you is if you want to talk with each other about things we just went through, telepathically, of course, then we can put that on the recording. Or we can stop the recording now and talk amongst ourselves. Same thing. What do you think? Should we end the recording now and then just chat? Okay.